Let's get some business news for you now. Kate Moody has joined us in the studio. Hello there, Kate.
Hi, Laura.
We're going to talk about Apple, aren't we? It has for a long time been one of the most successful companies in the world. It invented the iPhone, of course, that we all love so much. It has now passed a new milestone, though, hasn't it?
It has. It might not have seemed possible. Just a little over 20 years ago, 1997, Apple was close to bankruptcy. Now the tech giant has become the world's first ever trillion-dollar company. Its share price has been rising steadily since Tuesday, when it reported quarterly results that were above expectations thanks to strong sales of more expensive iPhones. During Thursday trade, its share price reached $207.05. As you can see, they're pushing its market value over $1 trillion for the first time ever. Now, it's up 20% since the beginning of this year and 50,000% since its initial public offering back in 1980, beating out longtime rivals like Microsoft and younger tech competitors like Google and Amazon, which are also on a steady upwards trend. Investors who were lucky enough to get in early say they never expected such results.
So I knew a little bit about the company, and I thought, well, if I'm in this world of writing about entrepreneurs, why don't I invest in one? And so I did. And I don't really remember how much I bought, but it was not a life-changing amount. But I bought it, and I just held it. And I've loved watching it go up and up and up.
Up and up and up. Well, Apple's meteoric rise has reversed Wall Street's negative start to the session and bucked the global trend. The Nasdaq rising over 1%, as Apple shares jump a further 3% there. Major exporters like Caterpillar and Boeing are still just under the flat line, and as you can see, the Dow has dropped slightly as well this hour. The major European indices followed on from steep losses in Asia. The export-reliant DAX losing 1.5%, the London FTSE down about 1%, all because of renewed international trade tensions. The Bank of England has raised interest rates for only the second time in a decade. In a somewhat surprising unanimous vote, policymakers lifted the official bank rate from 0.5 to 0.75%, its highest level since March 2009. The bank did, however, keep its stimulus program unchanged, as the 2.4% inflation rate remains above target. Now, some businesses and analysts have expressed concern that the move towards normalization comes too quickly, given a slowdown in economic expansion and the uncertainty over the UK's exit terms from the EU in just 8 months' time. But Bank Governor Mark Carney said there was enough room for manoeuvre.
The bank is well prepared for whatever path the economy takes, including a wide range of potential Brexit outcomes. The UK banking system has sufficient capital to continue lending even through a disorderly cliff-edge Brexit, however unlikely that might be.
The United States is preparing the next salvo in its simmering trade war with China, officially considering a higher level of tariffs on a wide variety of goods. The world's two largest economies are reportedly holding low-level talks to see if they can agree conditions to return to the negotiating table, but the Trump administration is showing more aggression than compromise. Shona Bhattacharya has been taking a look at how we got here.
Washington is tightening its chokehold on China's economy. It all started earlier this year, after increased tariffs on foreign-made solar panels, washing machines, aluminum and steel. President Trump then began focusing on China, announcing a 25% tax on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods in March. Those tariffs came into force in July on $34 billion of goods, with the other $16 billion set to be hit in the next few weeks. Also in July, Trump announced he was considering a 10% hike on virtually all of China's imports, some $500 billion worth of goods. $200 billion of those have been named so far. They include food products, minerals, and consumer goods like handbags. Now, Trump's administration is threatening to increase that tax hike to 25%. So far, China has retaliated to every hike in equal measure, while urging Washington to de-escalate. As China's foreign minister pointed out, due to the circular nature of globalization, sometimes it's American companies who will be punished.
60% of Chinese exports to the United States are actually made by foreign invested companies, including these American firms in China. So is the United States trying to put tariffs on its own companies? We hope that the trade policy makers in the United States will be cool-headed and listen to the voice of U.S. consumers.
In return, the U.S. Commerce Secretary said the tariffs would amount to less than 1% of China's economy, proportionately small, but still a large amount. Ultimately, Washington accuses China of benefiting from unfair policies and subsidies, as well as stealing American technological know-how.
Here in France, a law has been passed that gives people who resign from their jobs the right to claim unemployment benefits. It was a campaign promise of President Emmanuel Macron, who wants to encourage people to change jobs and retrain more often in their careers. The final law does attach some conditions, though, as Haxi Myers-Belkin explains.
Le projet de loi est adopté.
At France's National Assembly, applause greets a new law widening access to France's generous unemployment benefits. But just how closely do these measures resemble President Macron's campaign promises?
Every 5 years, I want employees to have the right to access unemployment benefits if they choose to quit.
Up until now, the only ways to be entitled to out-of-work payments was to lose your job or agree redundancy with bosses. But this latest reform won't exactly open up the benefit to anyone who wants to resign. The law states that a person will need to have held a job uninterrupted for 5 years. They'll also need to present a project for their future professional development to a commission who'll decide how much, if anything, is to be awarded.
The campaign promises were presented as providing both flexibility and security, like the Scandinavian model. But what we're seeing today is a bit different.
It seems logical to me that this law sets certain conditions. Otherwise, everyone would just decide that instead of working, they'd prefer to simply enjoy unemployment benefits.
Around 1 million French workers resign every year. Only a fraction are now actually eligible to receive state help if they resign. Those who are would receive unemployment benefit of up to 75% of their previous salary.
The possibility will be available to around 30,000 people each year. Hey, I didn't decide this. If the demand is high, well, then there'll be more professional projects accepted.
Opposition on the right, meanwhile, describes the new law as unrealistic and expensive. Even with the agreed restrictions in place, this programme is set to cost some 300 million euros per year.
Chile's so-called toilet paper cartel has started making amends for a decade of price fixing. 12.5 million consumers will receive compensation of 7,000 pesos, that's the equivalent of about $11, from CMPC, the country's largest paper mill. Along with competitor SCA Chile, which has yet to reach a consumer settlement, it controlled 90% of the market of toilet tissue. It's agreed to pay out $150 million, or about 3/4 of its unfair profits. A lot of consumers, Laura, admitting that it's not very much there, but saying $11 is better than nothing.
Absolutely. All right, okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Kate Moody there with the business. We are taking a short break. Don't go away, much more still to come.